Okay, Hari Om, Shri Krishna. So, the Macharis, we talked about Ashadi Ekadashi, 2017, the series of the spiritual visions. And the last time, if you remember, we talked about, just to recap, the example of the algae and the waves, ocean waves, in which I had seen the Brahma or Atma, as you want to call it, as the substratum, as the water forming the waves, and then the algae on it giving it the appearance. Like you could not see the waves of the water unless there was something showing it. And so the algae was what was showing it, and its existence was only for the purpose of showing the real stuff, like the real substance, which is Brahma. The whole thing being Brahma, and then localized at one place being Atma. So essentially the oneness of Brahma and Atma, which by the way is supposed to be the ultimate purpose behind Vedanta, Brahma Atma Aikya. So, and then also in the name and form, the temporary nature of it, the algae coming together, and then also disintegrating simultaneously, happening like at the same time, forming and deforming, except the slowness of it sort of being elusive. It was so slow that you could not. And then I described for you how I saw everything made of just those two. And then we talked about BhagwadGita in the 7th chapter, right? Gyan, Vigyan, Yoga. He says that's all there is. There is this my Ashtadha Prakriti, which is like Para and Apara Prakriti. So Apara being like beyond reach, the superior, the supreme, which is Brahma, like his energy. He says that's my energy, Apara. And then the Para Prakriti, the other way around, Para being the beyond, and then Apara is within reach, which is Maya. And he says, that's made of 8 things. So the algae, and everything that's in the universe. If you remember, he says it's just made of those two. But in it, para is as if one with me, and then apara is like matter here. So that's sort of like that. And then we talked about the link, like the trigger in the 14th chapter, that all it was just formed by the gunas. There was nothing really much to care about or pay attention to, worry about, all of that. So, and then I left off the last part, which I told you yesterday on the walk or this morning, that I still cannot fully describe it. It's just I understand it, but I just don't know how to describe it without causing confusion, misunderstanding. So then today we'll go from there. We're going backwards. One of the other visions that I had seen was, I call it going through the day. So I wrote it down, and so I'll read it, but also talk about it. And of course, you stop me when appropriate, when needed also. So once while meditating, so sometimes, as you know, sometimes I meditate just without anything, like just Mr. Basan, or sometimes some thought triggers something, like some meditation. So one time in the morning I had read the Blue Mountain Meditation, like that book. So in it one time, Eknath Easwaran, during one of his sort of discourses, had said something to the effect, like the true sign of a spiritual aspirant or a spiritual warrior is how he or she goes through the day, quote unquote, going through the day. That's sort of what I call this vision. Not how much we have learned, not how much we've memorized, not how much we know, not how much we're able to talk about or think or meditate or this or that or hang upside down, but just how do you go through the day? So it stuck in my head, like going through the day. That's just that paradigm of going through the day. And so at some point later in the day, as I was meditating, in seeing, there's this thought occurred to me, like, how do I go through the day? Like, that's an intriguing thought, that going through the day. And that triggered this vision. like as soon as I thought about it, like literally as soon as I thought about going through the day, as if I instantly transformed into a bubble-making sea, like net. Like the kids hold it and then they dip it in that soap water and then blow air through it. So what would you call it? The bubble maker, not the machine, just that.
It's a bubble stick or something like that.
Yeah, bubble stick. Yeah. So as if I became that, and then transparently passing through the air, gently waving from one side to the other. Like I was that bubble stick, as you call it, and it's simply going from here and there, and bubbles forming. And so depending on the material, like obviously soap water that I was passing through, or how much air, like how much force was there from the outside, different bubbles of shapes and sizes were forming through me. And then they were detaching. So some would be long, some would be big, some would be small, around the edges, in the middle, wherever. Obviously I didn't control it. I didn't know how they were forming. I didn't know why they were, any of it. There was no thought. But they were forming, and then naturally, as we see actually also, they were detaching and being blown away or flipped. Detaching and going away, moving away. And in all the while, I was just, I was that stick, waving here and there. So I felt like I was just being. Okay, again, I was just existed. There was no other qualifier to that feeling. That, okay, I am, that sort of thing. As if I'd been made sahaj, unstuck, unattached. Like that stick would be sahaj, like it just goes through in the bubble form. That's how it felt. It didn't matter, for it was everything, it felt like all was right, all was good, and that it was meant to be as whatever it didn't matter what shape, why this size, why detach, why not attach, this, that. There was no feeling like that. I just had to be there for those bubbles to be formed through me. It felt like it. None of them belonged to me, and that was good and all right too. There was no feeling of, these are my bubbles, I want to keep this or that. In fact, nothing belonged to me. So there was no sense of awareness of belonging at all. So this is going through the day, right? Like how do you go through the day? It was so lighthearted, it was so sahaj, it was so unstuck that it felt like there wasn't even awareness of belonging. Now I have to say that's not true necessarily with me the whole time. That's not how it is. So I cannot claim that that's how I go through the day necessarily. But the vision brought that experience to me momentarily for that period of time. Like I was lost. I don't know when the meditation started. As usual, when these visions come, I obviously then completely am gone and lose track of time. I was just a transparent ring there to let soft, clear bubbles form in me and then automatically let go as the breeze carried them away. Very lighthearted, very unburdened. And in fact, there was no feeling of that either. This is just like the afterthought that's coming. There was no feeling of it, but not dead, obviously. That's how light and subtle and sublime it was. And so as this was happening, the thought came like, who was holding it? That someone it had to be held if it was waving and that, right? Like it had to be either stuck to something or holding, like it could not exist by itself, that net. And what was the material and what about the air passing through it? Like what was all that? So it felt like, I didn't see this, but with that thought, it felt like so long as I remained unstuck, free, natural, sahaj, transparent, this was the feeling that bubble stick got during that vision. That, I don't know, whoever has control over everything, whoever is holding all of this is also holding me. Basically, there was no other question or thought about the person. It was just, all of it was very natural that obviously whoever has this whole big scheme going. And so the next thought was, well, God is holding me because he's holding all of it. And this was prominent. The lightheartedness was born out of this overwhelming background feeling that I did not even exist. So a lot of these visions, as I discussed some more, even more so strongly are very interesting in that there is a concurrent thought. There is a concurrent experience, a strange experience. Clearly, I don't exist. Like there is no such thing as I or me. There's no existence. And yet there is the recognition and the awareness of that, which is somewhat conflicting that, well, if I don't exist, then who is experiencing this? You know? So at that time also, I had that experience that I did not exist. But then if I focus some awareness on who and what was forming as bubbles, like again, this is consistent with many of the other visions. Like even in the algae example, I had said that everything was the same, but then if I focused, then I could see different scale, like the macro or micro all around me also. But then that's when I could see myself and the family. So here too, if I focus my attention, like more thought constricted, narrowed on who, what, why, then I could see that, well, I was holding it. So that was the irony of it, that in the first part, I was the stick, bubble stick. And it felt like whoever is holding everything else is also holding me, and therefore he's God. And then, but if I narrowed and constricted and limited my thoughts, then I was holding that stick. And so then as if the whole sort of control went away, and the bubbles would break too. Like then it was not the same experience. Then again, so when I would go away from that limiting vision, then I'd be back to becoming transparent. It was a very carefree, stress-free, joyous way of living, it seemed, because there was nothing other than that freedom. There was nothing else to experience. And that freedom, and there was no problem with that because that feeling of freedom was very joyful. So it was not problematic that other than that feeling of freedom, there is nothing to experience. Therefore, it must be a boring life or meaningless life or purposeless life. It wasn't that, because that feeling of freedom was sort of the highest joy that you could experience. You know? The lightheartedness, the sahasa. And so quite on the contrary, it was very fulfilling, very purposeful, it seemed.
It is you holding the stick.
Yeah.
So you're saying that was not a positive experience in the sense that it was ego kind of
yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. It was as if then I was completely limiting myself again.
Personalizing.
And limiting consciousness. Then obviously everything becomes small, limited, which is when we have to expand and compete and get more and all of that. Whereas if I let go of that feeling and just was the way I was shown in the vision, then there was nothing to worry about, there was no stress, there was nothing to accumulate, there was nothing to gain, because I did not even exist. So then where was the worry about anything? And yet I could experience it, like simultaneously. So at the root level, at the fundamental level, it was addressed. This whole feeling of I and mine is so illusory. It's not real. It actually does not exist, is sort of what was shown. And so if you can live in that feeling, then you can really go through the day, again, quote unquote, like that transparent bubble machine stick that's just making bubbles because that's what's there, right? Soap water is there, the wind is there, and therefore bubbles are going to form. Nothing more to it. So no thoughts, no concerns, just going through the day in love, beautifully and effortlessly. So that was a short one, obviously, but it felt really good, lighthearted. Sometimes I go back to that vision also. Yeah. Any other thoughts on it? And then I'll go to the next one.
So it was more about the feeling, but it didn't really matter what you were doing then on the flip side, like those bubbles that were formed.
Yeah.
The tasks that you were doing while you were going through the day.
Yeah.
It didn't really matter. It was more about the feeling behind that, right?
Yeah, so that's a good point. In fact, didn't even see anything different from one another.
Yeah.
Like whatever it was, everything was just bubbles for me.
Yeah.
So it didn't. Then to your point, one could imagine going to work or stress related to work or traffic or children or college or a home, no home, JK relationships. There was no distinction like that. I guess that only distinction would have been the shapes and sizes of the bubbles, but they were still all bubbles, the same material. Some were big, some were small, some were long, some were fat. So that may have been sort of indicative of whatever was forming, big load, big work, big task, small task. But substantively, it did not feel like anything different. It was just the same. And regardless of the size, shape, there was no effort in it.
Yeah, I really like that there's no distinction between Sattva-rajas and Tamas in that. In the task. Like you're not, it's opposite in the sense that typically then we're trying to, dissect and say, okay, this is sattvic work.
Good, bad.
Always labeling. But this gives it a neutrality. If that mindset or that experience is there, then, like just Bhagwatat वगैरे लिहिलेलं आहे की मग त्या व्यक्तीला काही फरक नाही पडत की काय करून राहिलो आहे. In the sense that they always do the right thing, but it doesn't matter anymore की what is it that he or she is doing. So that was one that I noticed की एक तो फरक नाही पडत. And it goes back to then what you had said about field and observer. This is all happening in the field. Going through the day. But the knower of the field is just joyfully experiencing whatever is happening. Again, no personalization because it's like who the tasks are related to, who the stick and all of that. But I like that. And then also the illusion of bubbles. असं वाटते खूप काहीतरी आहे पण जसं शास्त्रात पाण्याचे बुडबुडे म्हटलं.
Yeah. I think you're spot on about all of those. So this is the intriguing part, that the visions that come are so coherent and so aligned with both in form and substance. Like the truth is revealed, but even the manner in which it is like really so matching with even just the nature. If you even consider, like you said, the algae on the wave, like trash, or the bubble, then it's like there's nothing to it. All of that. So which is what is very compelling for me. I cannot say that this is just messed up. Some make believe.
Well, especially for it to come multi-layered
complex
wisdom encompassed in this one little experience. So that's why it just doesn't seem like, because as soon as you said it, like बाकी मी कुठलाही lessons करताना वगैरे I have to think through it. की मग हा step, मग असं दाखव मुलांना, मग तसं दाखव, मग असं करू. But this just seems like it's like warp speed सारखं तू तिथे चालला गेला आहे. हे पटकन अनुभव घेतलेला आणि वापस आला. So there was no conscious effort on your part to think through these things. But I could imagine like Bal Sanskar using that bubble example like for just to show be a lighthearted stick.
Yeah, that's really truly how you say it. That I just the next moment I find this as part of this vision until it lasts, and then I'm back again. And also in terms of the stick, the not being attached to the good or the bad, because there was just no feeling of that I am the doer, so there was no reason for regret, remorse, or pride, or haughtiness, or anything, because it was all still the same, and I had nothing to do with it. I had no business with it. I was just that net, and whatever was happening was happening. I didn't know who was doing it or how or why. But it didn't matter, because again the central point is that experience or that freedom was just so super naturally joyous that the mind wouldn't go what, how, why, because it was just a peak of freedom to the spiritual freedom experience, I suppose. Yeah. Good. So there's one other short one that we can cover in here. I think I had shared this one with you. This is very prominent also. It's short and quick, but very, very, very powerful for my journey, for my transformation. And it's, I call it simply Jao. Jao. Right? Go. Yeah. So a few years back, I think it was 2012, I'm trying to remember, maybe 5 years ago, maybe more than 5 years ago, when I was meditating completely blank, no motive, no intention, no thought, just quietly sitting down with eyes closed and doing my favorite activity, dhyan. Right? Like, I do remember that I remember not having any other thoughts sitting down, just like literally here in this room right here. Right? But we had the rug, the carpet there at the time. Was there a carpet here? When did we do the hardwood floor? Okay. Anyway, so I'm trying to remember the details, but it's definitely here.
There was a carpet here.
Like bluish gray. Yeah. So just basically blankly sitting down for dhyan. And so suddenly in a single moment, all at the same time. So the prominent thing about this vision is that this whole experience felt as if this is everything at once in one moment. So I am deconstructing it for the sake of this description, slowly, one at a time. But it wasn't like it just happened, this happened, and then that happened, and then that happened. It felt as if everything happened at once in that one moment. But that one moment was probably 20, 25, 30 minutes long. So I saw and literally clearly heard this. So that's how there are 2 or 3 visions, at least 2 that I can think of. 3. Every time it's related to Krishna. There are 3 that I can think of. Every time I clearly remember hearing, which is different from seeing, right? The vision is the word. So this is what I saw. I was in a prison, jail, with many, maybe 100 people. It was like a big chamber, like looking outside, the vertical bars. And I was near my 2 hands were on the bars. I was looking outside, maybe my face sort of pressed to the bars. And there were so many people behind me, with me, inside the prison. And I don't remember who all was, but there were just a lot of people. So hundreds were around with me, all in prison. In that same moment, Sri Krishna appeared with what looks like some entourage, some paraphernalia. So here's what I remember. Like, I remember the boy, Krishna. And I remember like some people, so this was obviously outside the prison. Some people like thode gauthi lokas, like villagers type of looking. I'm trying to exert to remember. But they were not like city dwellers, they were villagers. With him, around him, and later on I'll describe it. There was also a lady with him, and I couldn't quite figure out. I still don't know, but there was a thought, is this Maya with him or Radha? And the question about Maya was because of what happened in that vision, right? So suddenly he appeared. He was, of course, outside, and he was the same youthful, playful, beautiful, smiling, energetic, merciful Krishna. So I only had this vague image of a boy with like the pitambar, all that. And I don't remember the distinct, clear features and everything in this vision. So all in the same moment, he just suddenly appeared and opened the prison door that had kept me behind bars and just let me out. Like literally opened the door, and I gently walked out. And I stood there on the boundary, the gate slightly opened by Krishna, and looking directly at me. Said, Jao. It was a quick, short, one word, saying, Jao. This is what I actually heard, right? Not just saw. It was plain and straightforward, just Jao. As if my predestined time had come, like my jail time was done or something, and I obviously didn't know it, but he's punctual as ever. If that was the moment, then that was the moment, right? So confused, frozen, unsure, I still stood there, I remember this, not moving. Because the thought was, why me? How is Krishna here? Like, what happened? Like, jail? Krishna, what is all this, right? Wow, look at his authority. Like, I was thinking, he just came from who knows where, just takes it upon himself to unlock the gate in front of so many people on both sides. No one is saying anything to him. Outside the prison, inside the prison, and simply says, Jao. Right? What? Am I sure he's saying that to me and not to someone else from the prison crowd with me? Should I really go? Will it seem impudent, disrespectful if it actually he wasn't saying it to me? Would I be punished for like trying to cheat and run away when that order wasn't for me? Should I just stay inside knowing well how much I am really undeserving of freedom? How stupid it will be if he is actually saying it to someone else and I think he was saying it to me and I leave, right? Will I upset him and others? And then I think the lady, that's when I Magalakshagala, I think the lady, the Devi with him, is she Maya? Is she Radha? Will she let me escape even if I walked out? Like he's saying, Kubathariti Niki Jao. Well, what about her? What if she's Maya? She sure is going to figure out a way to put me back in prison again. So everyone on both sides is just looking at me. Like inside the villagers and the prisoners. With thousands of questions in my mind, doubts arise all at once. Just then, so this is all in the same moment, right? Just then he even more clearly looked at me and holding my hand as if to drag me out, said this time more sternly, Jao. Like it was like a warning. Like it was a very classic Krishna. I felt like that there is a perfect balance of this warning and yet loving sort of advice. That this was the moment, as if, right? I noticed a kind warning in that tone, as if to say, this was my thought. He didn't say it. Look, this is your chance. Leave now. After this, no guarantee, and I'm not responsible. I'm here, and I've opened the door. I'm asking you to leave. So run, stupid. So I sheepishly, I sheepishly looked at the lady, still not knowing if she was Maya or whom. Like, how is she letting me get out of the prison? Maya, like prison of Maya, something. He was definitely Krishna, though. He had all the adornments. The peacock feather was there, the flute, the garland, the smile, the pitambar, the ever-fresh, youthful face. And he clearly owned that place. He was a king there because the authority told it all. No one had any daring to say anything otherwise if he said so. So he clearly owned the place with full authority. No one said anything. They all kind of stood back and watched and listened, including the Devi. I think she must have been Maya Devi. That's when I thought, because she didn't intervene. So with that second admonishing Jao, I just left swiftly running away from it. I kept running and didn't stop until slowing down near a pandal. So I remember this, like running away. There was like open ground, and then there was just suddenly a pandal appeared, like a satsang pandal, right? And this is what gave me the thought that this must be in India, because even though I was meditating in America, itya ekdam ground were pandal and satsang, but it was clearly like that. Well, there was some satsang going on, and so panting, gasping, I sat down in the back, like I came back like at the back of the crowd, because I was approaching that pandal as I was running. So I just sat down because there was a crowd there, and I'm sure like 1,000 or more people were there, probably, maybe 1,000, maybe more. Then I got up to see whose satsang it was after I caught my breath. And it was Leela Shah Maharaj.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, okay. My Dada Guru. So Bapuji often fondly described him as, and my heart has always been attracted to him. I heard a few things about him and what he had said and how he said, and of course Bapuji does it really well also. But even from other sources, I heard a couple other like non-ashram related sources, like Ram Sukhdasji Maharaj, who was his age, and someone else. So in my heart, it was like, how cool it would be if we could actually see his satsang also. But I knew that I was not fortunate enough to have his darshan because he left, obviously. So I felt very lucky and obviously very free. I could tell that I was no longer in the prison because I followed Krishna's instruction and escaped. So he let me out mercifully. I still don't know why or how. I don't know. I'll say this now. I don't know if I am actually out of the prison or not. But surely at that time it felt like it. But wow, it was for real. The time it felt real. I turned to listen to the satsang and it was in BhagwadGita. Leela Shamara satsang was in BhagwadGita. So about 24 some minutes later I woke out of my meditation and I was forever transformed. So these are not dreams. I'll stop here. Obviously, these are not dreams. These are not sleeping dreams. This isn't like I wake up out of and then, oh wow, that was such a good dream. Very different, right? I'm fully aware, awake, actually doing active dhyan, and then I'm transported momentarily and then sort of brought back as it. That was very cool. Jao.
Yeah, I didn't. मला माहित नव्हतं याला second part because I.
Oh, the satsang part.
मी इथपर्यंत ऐकलं होतं तुझं मग तू निघाला म्हणून.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that was interesting too.
It was on Gita. Yeah. But so again, it is vague. I mean, it's been several years now, and I didn't take the time to write it down then. It is vague. I mean, I'm not with crystal clarity. I don't remember the exact everything, like the features and everything. But the memory, the impression is strong.
Yeah, म्हणजे मला असं वाटतं की some of them seem to be like clearly experiences to help you get closer, like understanding the truth, whether it was the algae one or the bubble one. But then some of them seem to be just like markers. Yeah, point nuntar, you're moving to the next level. Or like it just seems like that. Ki kai ashe instructive, informative astan, and kai ashe enlightening us that you crossed over the stage or you. I don't claim to understand it. Fun. It seems like almost two categories of. Visions or experiences.
I had three distinct that Krishna was very directly, personally, centrally involved. All three had a voice associated with it also. And all three felt like that one single unbroken moment. There was no distinction that this is happening over time. Like everything coming together at once. And the clarity of it, the conviction of it, like even in this one that I just described, it is so clear, Madhuri, like the actual experience is so clear, not necessarily the details of it, that I could just go back to it any time, any number of times, that jao.
Yeah, किंवा मग असं मेमरीतून जसं आपण कुठली तरी गोष्ट पुल आउट करतो तशा टाईपचं.
Yeah.
It has to be a real, like experiencing through all your senses and everything. That's interesting.
Yeah. And then the other striking thing about now I'm thinking as I'm talking to you about these three associated with Krishna is that the dialogue of whatever, they were all monologues. I didn't say anything in any of them actually. I was not talking, I only heard. But they were very short, very succinct, very decisive, very clear, more like instruction. In all three instances, a specific, short, clear, decisive, compelling, and authoritative. That this is it. Like there's a belaboring dialogue, monologue, conversation. There's nothing like that. It was just like in and out. All three of them swift. Yeah. Okay, great. Jai Shri Krishna.